Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, I'm pretty sure my accent gave it away, I come from the UK. And something I like to specialise my content on is talking about long forgotten shows and projects from Britain. And in today's case, we're specifically looking at programmes from the children/family demographic. It's been a little while since we've last covered the topic on the channel. So if you're one of my long-time viewers, I hope you enjoyed today's programme. And for newcomers, be sure to like and subscribe if this sounds like your type of cup of tea. Also, don't forget to comment down below about the next UK show you would love to see me cover. Alright, that will do for the context. Let's take our television TARDIS and travel back in time. In the last 70 years alone, The Chronicles of Narnia have been one of the most popular children's book series ever written, with over 100 million copies sold. There's no surprise that there's been various media adaptations. The 2000s Disney and Fox movies are probably the most well known, and the BBC series of the 80s still remains to be a fairly remembered show of its time. And then there was the 1979 animated special that aired in 2 parts on CBS. However, superseding all of these adaptations was the 1967 TV series based off the first book and sharing the same title, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Produced by ABC and airing on ITV. It was initially planned that the series was going to be done in a Jack and Nori style, featuring a host reading the story and intercut with illustrations as an indicator of what was happening in the plot. However, producer Ian McKenzie pushed to expand the production values of the show. Since McKenzie was a very religious man, and the Narnia stories are very faith-based, he wanted to treat the series as a very special production. A core narrator was still included at the heart of the show. This was allocated to the character Diggory Kirk, a reoccurring character in the Narnia series. Although in the TV adaptation he's only referred to as the Professor. He was played by Jack Wilgar. He was fairly typecast throughout his career, playing eccentric old men. Whovians may recognise him as Sergeant Arnold in the Doctor Who serial The Web of Fear. The host segments of the Professor were now intercut with a theatrical live-action drama, or at least as theatrical you could get for 1960s television. Some minor location filming was done for the show. The private school of Ravna House, Sevenoaks, was chosen as the Professor's house. Each episode was budgeted at about £700 each, and had a runtime just under 18 minutes. The show ran weekly in 10 parts, from July 9th to September 10th. Unfortunately, ABC didn't have the necessary resources to extensively archive their programs. As a result, out of the 10 original episodes, only Part 1 and 8 still exist. And there's additionally off-air audio recording from Part 7. For many years, the surviving episodes were really inaccessible to view, and with very few promotional or behind-the-scenes images resurfacing over the years, it was very difficult for Narnia fans to envision as to what the project looked like. It wasn't until in 2010 that episode 8 was unofficially uploaded to the internet. The leaked episode appeared to have been ripped from a VHS. And judging by the quality, it seems to have been copied down by several generations. When the content of a VHS gets copied over to another tape, the video gradually loses its original resolution, leaving you with a very washed out image and a lot of unwanted artifacts. And unfortunately, the original upload had removed 1 minute and 30 seconds from the beginning, and it was split within 2 uploads, cutting out 30 seconds within the middle of the episode.
You know that unless I have blood, as the law says, all Narnia will be overturned and perish in a holocaust.
This is the truth. I do not deny it.
Oh, Aslan, can't we... I mean, you won't, will you?
In May of 2021, both surviving episodes were made available on the DVD series ABC Nights In, being a compilation of various other British programmes produced by ABC during the 60s.
What are these things? They're Daleks! God, I thought it was Morecambe and Wine for a minute.
Episode 1 was featured on the DVD set Your Faces Are All Blurred. This was the first time that Episode 1 was available in any form since its original broadcast. And then Episode 8 was on the set Don't Go Away, I Could Do With a Bit of Cheer Right Now. This was the first time that the episode was released in any official form, finally allowing viewers to watch it in crystal clear quality. As well, the transfer was complete and uncut, restoring back in the opening title and the previous week's cliffhanger, and as well the missing 30 seconds within the middle of the episode.
You know that unless I have blood, as the law says, all Narnia will be overturned and perish in a holocaust.
This is the truth. I do not deny it.
Oh, Aslan, can't we... I mean, you won't, will you?
However, at the time of recording this video, the audio to episode 7 has not yet been made available to the public, either leaked or officially, and it still remains to be seen if it ever will. While it's difficult to fully evaluate the series, as while we've only got the very beginning and partially the ending to watch, from what we can see, the atmosphere of the series progressively changes. Episode 1 is light-hearted and very gentle, which reflects the plot of the episode, Lucy having dinner with Mr. Tumnus. Nothing too epic or too grand, just a very quick and quaint journey into Narnia. And the next time tease is very minimalistic.
And Edmund is next through the wardrobe to go. You wonder what happens. Next week, you'll know.
But then, 8 weeks later, the episode starts with a skirmish to rescue Edmund, and then a deal is done to save his life between Aslan and the White Witch. However, the kids don't know as to what the exact conditions were for the deal, with the episode ending with Aslan fleeing into the forest. The ending narration reflects the situation.
Lucy and Susan walk with him at night. But what meets their eyes is a terrible sight.
I almost wonder that if in the rest of the show, that the tension of the threat of the White Witch would have progressively escalated from episode to episode. Or maybe part 8 is totally different from the previous parts and I'm just overthinking all of this.
Isn't there something you could work against it?
Work against the Emperor's magic! Never make that suggestion again, any of you!
Regardless though, I will commend the makers of this program for being quite ambitious to try and visually illustrate the Narnia book. They've gone for a bit of a Wizard of Oz approach to bring the animals to life, by turning them into costume characters. For a TV budget at the time, it was probably the most efficient way to bring them into the program. Sure, it's a little odd that the main animal characters have their eyes and mouths visible and the added extras dressed up as animals don't. But again, since it's a television show budget, they could probably only spread themselves so thin. And from what's available, they don't excessively rely on the narrator to dart away from visually complex shots. Like they still show the witch and her servant transformed into inanimate objects. While the narrator certainly condenses down the story, the filmmakers still show a lot of ambition. With how almost bookend the surviving episodes are, it's really a shame that we can't watch the whole series to see on how the storyline would have naturally progressed. At least from what little still exists from the show, I can say that I've enjoyed this short trip to Narnia. In the late 50s, Jerry Anderson and Arthur Provid teamed up to form a film company, titling it AP Films. However, the studio wasn't immensely successful. There weren't enough commissions coming through to keep them afloat. Fortunately though, a wealthy children's author named Roberta Lee came in to hire AP Films for work, commissioning them to produce a series called Twizzle. a children's puppet series. Desperate for work, AP Films agreed to the series. According to Roberta Lee, the reason why she approached AP Films was because she was impressed with a commercial they did with a marionette Noddy. Although, according to Sylvie Anderson, the real reason Roberta Lee approached the company was because they were the cheapest film studio she could find. The production behind The Adventures of Twizzle wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Self-conscious of the budget, Arthur Profit was really concerned about the amount of film stock they were using for the show, and Roberta Lee was quite difficult to work with, and there was a fallout between her, Profit and Anderson. Sometime later, after producing the pilot to Four Feather Falls, Jerry and Arthur went their separate ways. The pair didn't fall out. It was just that Jerry wanted to push the company further, and Profit didn't have the same ambition. You see, Jerry's passion involved a lot of financial risk, and Arthur didn't want to worry about being financially stunted, so Jerry bought him out and ran AP Films without him. In subsequent years after the end of their partnership, Arthur Profit went on to speak very highly about working with Jerry, calling him a wonderful chap. Roberta Lee, on the other hand, called him an evil man. It's worth remarking that Lee had a lot of, let's say, far-fetched stories. For example, an archival interview was used with Roberta Lee for the documentary Jerry Anderson, A Life Uncharted. At the BFI screening, director Benjamin Field revealed some colourful stories that were cut.
Roberta Lee believes that Jerry locked Roberta in the studio while they went out for lunch and left her in the cold, dark studio for 3 hours while they went for a long lunch at the end of something else. And really, I think it's probably the fact that Jerry moved on without her and that she was perhaps a little bit bitter about the relative successes that they then had.
So he didn't actually lock her in a building.
Oh, we have no idea.
We
but that's
tried
what
to
she
find
said.
out, but she did say
She
that.
also say that he was a communist.
Yeah, she said nobody would give him any work because he was an avowed communist.
Anyway, Roberta Lee and Arthur Profit were still on relatively good terms. So much so that they teamed up together to create a brand new puppet series, a sci-fi program titled Space Patrol. The inspiration for the series came about after Roberta Lee felt compelled to make a program for older children, as by that time there were no kids shows being produced that was aimed beyond the primary school level. Network ABC were interested, and after producing an expensive pilot, the series was picked up. One of the ways that the series was kept sufficiently under budget was by, instead of renting out a film studio, sets were filmed and built within a church, with London's Halsder chosen and the church in Stoke Newington. If you're used to the Jerry Anderson puppets of the 60s, then the ones in Space Patrol certainly look quite peculiar in comparison. But to be fair, the series ran and aired throughout the year of 1963, and just a year prior, Anderson and his team were producing Supercar, and the marionettes in that program didn't look particularly refined like the ones seen in Thunderbirds. So during this time, it was a very much trial and error to make the puppets look appealing. The choice in music in Space Patrol is certainly quite interesting when compared to the other Jerry Anderson shows of the time. Take the intro from Stingray, for example. There's only one word that's uttered throughout the intro, but my god do they make it catchy. And now here's the opening intro to Space Patrol. Yeah, it kinda goes on with a lot of atmosphere and no beat. Anybody I know that grew up during the early 60s can still recite the Fireball XL5 closing credits.
My heart would be a fireball,
And now here's Space Patrol's closing credits. Oh yeah, I can dance to this all day. To be fair, the music in Space Patrol is perfectly contemporary for 60s British television. It would very easily fit in line with a soundtrack from 60s Doctor Who, but it's certainly not as timeless when compared to the Anderson shows. It would be far too easy to call Space Patrol the poor man's equivalent of Thunderbirds. And to be fair to the series, it did have a fairly successful run, on equivalent to Fireball, Scarlet or Stingray. It was commissioned for 2 blocks of episode batches and ran for 39 programs. Soon afterwards, Roberta Lee and Arthur Provis moved swiftly on to the next sci-fi show, titled Polestar. A 25-minute pilot was produced in 1964. They attempted to update the puppets. Yeah, I'll let you be the judge if they succeeded or not.
Your face is enough to scare anyone.
The show never got picked up, although it remains to be Arthur Provid's personal favourite project he did with Roberta Lee. The pair would go on to create one more sci-fi pilot, the 1967 Solonauts, being an attempt to create the British answer to Star Trek. And this time they've actually got a fairly catchy intro. Unlike the prior show, this one was produced with live-action actors, and reportedly many of the spaceship models were repurposed miniatures from Space Patrol. A little detail that I love that the spacesuits that the Solonauts wear look like a further evolution from the ones that were seen in Space Patrol. I wouldn't call myself a fan of the design, but I admired the minor continuity between all these shows. Oh, and of course the women's spacesuits are differently designed. And despite one of the producers of the series being another woman, Kendir, the only female participant of the pilot, is objectified by the other men.
Can you carry these? Oh, charming.
Jerry Anderson, with the backing of Lou Grade, was able to go on and on and on, creating many memorable sci-fi shows of the era. Lee and Provis, in comparison, their work nearly fell into obscurity. During the 60s and 70s, there were 4 condensed down episodes of Space Patrol that were released on Super 8, having a length of about roughly 16 minutes. These episodes included The Swamp of Jupiter, The Miracle Tree of Saturn, The Robot Revolution, and The Mystery on the Moon. For a short while, these edited down programs were believed to be the only remaining episodes left from Space Patrol, as the show wasn't believed to exist in any other archive. It wasn't until by 1997 it was rediscovered that Roberta Lee had a 16mm print of every episode made of the show. They were in good enough condition where they could be commercially released on VHS and later DVD. Eventually, 2 episodes on 35mm film were rediscovered and was used for the show's eventual Blu-ray release. Thanks to the program finally being available and accessible to view, it's gone on to garner itself a cult following, being loved and appreciated by a brand new generation. Today, you can see dozens and dozens of fan works all over the web. In 1998, Aardman Animation collaborated with Oxford University to make a brand new version of the 3 original Wallace and Gromit films. These newer versions would be used to help international students to learn English. Each short was chopped up into 6 mini-episodes, and Peter Sallis was brought back to record new dialogue for Wallace.
That went as well as could be expected, didn't it? How are you this morning then, Gromit?
And in a close shave, Anne Reeve reprised her role as Gwendolyn to redo her lines as well.
Oh no, not cheese. Sorry, it brings me out in a rash. Can't stand the stuff. Oh no, not cheese. Sorry, I'm allergic to cheese. I can't stand it.
I did find quite a bit of Wallace's new dialogue to be somewhat amusing, especially in some cases in the original episode where you're wondering as to what exactly Wallace's thought process is. Like in The Grand Day Out, what exactly was he expecting to get out of the machine?
Where's my chocolate? Oh.
Although I admire in this version of the redub that Wallace doesn't blame Gromit for not lighting the fuse, like he did in the original.
The fuse! You forgot to light the fuse! The fuse! fuse? What about the fuse?
I mean, come on, Wallace. Why are you putting that pressure on Gromit? Besides, you did it the first time round, not Gromit. Why is it suddenly Gromit's responsibility? Sorry, just a little pet peeve of mine. As well, now being made as an English learning tool, some of Wallace's dialect was dialed back for the redub.
Hold tight, lad, and think of Lancashire hot pot. Hurry up! 7 seconds to blast off. I'm asking 20 a week. It's £20 a week. Well, this is a fine howdy-do, isn't it, Gromit? Wow, the wardrobe's locked now, Gromit. You'll be hunted down like, well, a dog. You'll have to hide, or you'll go back to prison.
Although they did leave in this animal pun.
Come here, Chuck. Don't be sheepish.
Maybe they thought the play word with dog wasn't so international. However, since the original 3 films are fairly devoid of dialogue beyond Wallace, the production brought in actor Stephen Tompkinson to be an additional narrator for the 3 shorts. He explains visually what's happening on screen.
The penguin's carrying a pair of slippers, and he's putting them on Wallace.
Reading out loud key writing to the plot.
Wanted, have you seen this chicken?
Enunciating certain objects.
Plate, teapot, water, and crackers.
And speaking to the characters in a storybook sort of way.
Mind the soap.
Oh, wow!
Too late.
Being very used to the original versions of the shorts, his presence is certainly quite jarring. But considering that he was added for the value of more English words, it would be unfair to view this as critically as a regular Wallace and Gromit episode. Besides, the narrator does offer a few tidbits of the story. In A Grand Day Out, while the robot is never given a name, the narrator does give it one.
The moon machine's waving goodbye.
Although officially, I believe the robot is still referred to as Cooker. Anyway, like I said, the narrator does speak to the characters. And there's this anecdotal encouragement which I love.
Go on, Gromit. Knock on the door.
But to be fair though, during a close shave, he remains quiet when there's a shared moment between Gwendolyn and Wallace.
Oh yes, I'm inventing mostly. Only...
Oh, what sort of inventions?
Well, sort of...
Daddy would love to have met you. Poor Daddy.
Oh, yes, I'm an inventor, you see. Only...
Oh, what sort of inventions?
Well, sort of...
Daddy invented things too. Poor Daddy.
Something else notable about this version of The Wrong Trousers, that it uses the original music mono mix as broadcast, such as featuring the music from Happy Birthday.
It's a birthday card from Wallace.
And the instrumentals to How Much Is That Doggy in the Window. These redub versions of Wallace and Gromit were released in 1999 on VHS, and later released on DVD in 2004. However, they were only meant for education institutes, and not to be purchased from the average consumer. Because of this, for many years, these versions were largely inaccessible to the general public. It wouldn't be until August of 2009 that Day Out and The Wrong Trousers were unofficially uploaded to the Russian site vk.com, and then a year later, in August of 2010, a close shave would be uploaded to the site as well. However, the quality of these uploads would be in 240p resolution. It wouldn't be until in January of 2025 that high quality rips were made available on archive.org. While making this video for a bit of fun, I synced up the audio from the Oxford versions to my Blu-ray copies of the shorts, and upscaled the episode numbers and titles. So now I can enjoy the Wallace and Gromit short films like The International Students at the turn of the century, just now in high definition. The Animals of Farthing Wood was an animated series that lasted for 3 seasons, based off the book series by the same name. It was commissioned by the European Broadcasting Union. It was put into production due into a large part of European broadcasters feeling that there was too much American content for children's television, and that the market wasn't diverse enough with local projects. During its original run, Farthing Wood was immensely popular around Europe, and while it's still a fairly fondly remembered programme of the era, not much is known about the behind-the-scenes background. The series' Wikipedia page is fairly bare bones, and the home media releases have never provided any bonus content. There's not really a face of a creative individual that can be associated with the show. Comparing it to other animated drama series in America and Japan, Animals of Farthing Wood is certainly a little bit mysterious in comparison. No behind-the-scenes content would be publicly available until 2024. A 3-minute documentary about the show was uploaded onto YouTube, initially made by the BBC back in 1993. It's so far our only tantalising glimmer of what it took to make the show. A little while ago, one of the writers for the series, Steve Walker, was briefly in commute to some of the fans of the series, revealing little tidbits about the behind the scenes of the show. Something that he unveiled that early on there were plans to make a Weasel spin-off series. According to him, it was in consideration, as the Weasel characters were quite popular in the polls.
Ada killed Scarface!
This information was shared in Walker's email conversation with a fan, which was screenshot and shared on an Animals of Farthing Wood internet thread. Unfortunately, the site is no longer up, and Walker's interview wasn't archived, so please forgive the lack of paraphrasing in this part of the video. Anyway, outside of this interview, there was no additional information about the spin-off series to go off. That wasn't until during the making of this video I reached out to the music composer of the spin-off, Mike Roberts. On his website, Mark shared the piece of music he created for the spin-off. I reached out to Mike to see if he could remember anything from the project. From what he can recall, a soft pilot was created of the show, being in the form of a 3-minute promo video, showing backers what a theoretical Weasel show may look like. The demo mainly comprised of pre-existing clips from the Animals of Farthing Wood. However, there was a short piece of new animation made for this promo. He can remember doing the soundtrack to the pilot in 1992, 1 year before the first season of the Animals of Farthing Wood, when the proposed spin-off didn't come to anything. The new Weasel animation for the promo pilot got reused for the main show. Although where exactly it was reused, Roberts can't quite remember. He thinks it may have been the chase scene between the two weasels in the first episode of Season 2, as he can remember doing the scoring to that moment, but the music didn't wind up in the final broadcast episode. Not only that, but he can also remember the narrative around that chase scene being slightly different when compared to the final broadcast episode. Although it seems like a series centering on the weasels never truly left the minds of the creators of the show, as in the third and final series of the Animals of Farthing Wood, the weasels have a significantly bigger role, having an ongoing subplot throughout the season. This was a departure from the book, as this subplot was never in the original story. However, this is a deviation that fans of the show have not welcomed with open arms. So maybe it wasn't a big loss that we didn't get the spin-off show. There's still a lot of mystery around the show of the Animals of Farthing Wood, but at least today we can close the case on what exactly happened to the Weasel spin-off. Okay, I've been waiting for the day that I could finally show off this clip.
Yes, it's me, Basil Brash. This is a surprise, isn't it? Now, I've been told by your mum and dad that it's your 22nd birthday! Woohoo! Congratulations!
This always cracks me up when Basil says this.
You're a YouTuber who likes to find lost media, And some of mine got lost many years ago, I know, some of my early work on the BBC, but some of it has been redigitized. Maybe you could do that as a living, maybe. Redigitize all the Basil Brush shows.
After completing his national service, Ivan Owen attempted to break into acting. He studied at London's Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, although he never finished his course. In 1956, he was able to get a job at independent television, although now more famously abbreviated as ITV. Over the years, he developed a knack of conjuring up voices for puppet characters. In the early 60s, he met Peter Furman, who was a craftsman, making various children's puppet characters for British television. The two men collaborated and created the character Fred Barker, who first appeared on ITV in 1962. 1 year later, he would star alongside Ollie Beak, another recurring ITV puppet character, in the Midlands children's programme 5 O'Clock Club, presenting and hosting a variety of different children's shows. Since a lot of children's television at the time was filmed live, very little of it was ever preserved or recorded. By consequence, the majority of the hosting segments on the 5 O'Clock Club are completely lost. In 1962, Ivan Owen and Peter Furman worked on another ITV programme titled The Three Scampies. It featured two puppet characters, an aggressive Scottish hedgehog called Spike McPike, who was performed and voiced by Wally Whiten, a regular for ITV's children's programmes of the time, and Ivan Owen performed and played a rather reserved but cheeky fox, named Basil Brush, which would be the very character that would define his career. Basil was partially based on the comedian Terry Thomas, as just like Basil, they're both upper-class Englishmen, and just like Thomas, Basil as well has a distinct gap between his teeth. And to further cement Basil being an iconic television character, he would have his distinctive laughter.
Boom! Boom! That's my life!
The character of Basil would further prosper and would appear on various other programmes, where Spike McPike seemed to have only ever appeared in the Three Scampies. As of the time of recording this video, there are no known surviving copies or prints of the Three Scampies. Ivan Owen's career would further escalate, with Basil being a regular recurring character on the BBC show The Nixon Lineup. In 1968, Basil Brush got his own television programme that aired on BBC. It acted as a variety show, with Basil and his human co-star presenting and doing various sketches throughout the episode, and then feature performances from other artists. Being a posh fox, Basil would often refer to his co-stars as Mr., and over the course of the show's run, there were several human presenters. We had Mr. Rodney, Mr. Derek, Mr. Roy, and Mr. Howard. Slowly, the series would evolve, including various things such as Basil's dog, Tigger.
Get back to the conker. Come on, drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it, you fool!
The Basil Brush Show was imported to 15 countries, becoming particularly popular in South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, with Ivan Owen taking his family along to various worldwide tours, as he would perform and host as Basil. Although, to maintain the magic of Basil, he made sure that he didn't gain any of the credit as the character, and didn't allow any pictures with him and Basil, just to further separate any connections, and he very rarely ever did any interviews of himself.
Stanley is in the guise of a famous literary figure.
Oh, I know, Ollie Beak.
It's not Ollie Beak.
The end of the Basil Brush Show came in 1980, where Ivan Owen wanted to change the time slot to after the news, to hearken to a bigger primetime audience. But the BBC felt that it was more suitable for the Basil Brush Show to stay within a children's time slot. But Ivan Owen wanted to push the Basil Brush Show even bigger. With no compromise being met, the show was cancelled. Basil Brush would briefly return to ITV for a new programme called Let's Read with Basil Brush, which ran for 2 years on the channel, which would reunite Basil with Mr. Howard for one last time on television. As of the time of recording this, only 3 episodes can be found online. In 1987, Ivan Owen got to perform in front of the royal family for Prince William's 5th birthday party. This would be one of the final times that Ivan Owen performed as Basil, as with no new television show on air, the interest just waned. In 1997, Ivan Owen and Peter Firmer both sold their share copyright of Basil Brush to American billionaire Bill Hasman, who was a longtime fan of the character and had big plans to bring him back. 3 years later, at the age of 73, Ivan Owen passed away after a battle with cancer. He sadly didn't get to see Basil's big comeback in the 2000s, but if there's any consolations, Basil was still just as big and famous as he was all the way back in the 70s.
Mr. Roy, I don't believe it.
Happy Christmas, Basil. I've still got the Christmas jumper you gave me.
I say, it's worn a lot better than you have, Mr. Roy.
Very little of the original incarnation of Basil has been made commercially available. Any semblance of the Basil Brush show wasn't put out on physical media, not until in 2001, where a best-of compilation of clips was featured on DVD and VHS. Running for about 51 minutes, the release mainly highlights all the various celebrities that appeared on the show.
Hey, it's James Bond. No, it's not. It's Henry Cooper.
And within the span of over 20 years, it's still been the only main release of the Basil Brush show.
I was thrilled when a critic said, Lulu's voice comes out very well.
And it should. Look where it's been.
I've still got fond memories of my dad showing me this DVD when I was 6 years old, showing me the Basil that he grew up watching, although it got a little bit awkward for my parents when I asked them what is a minstrel.
Wonder why I have some of them black faces?
And I might have gotten in trouble for repeating this joke at school.
I am a woman.
Yes, I suppose you are, really. But nowadays you can't be too sure, can you?
Don't be rude.
And as well, the show gave me a brief phobia of sheepdogs. And in 2005, featured as a bonus feature on the Doctor Who Mind Robber DVD, was a 10-minute sketch clip from the Basil Brush show, where Mr. Roy and Basil are climbing through the Himalayas. While camping for the night, a titular Yeti comes to disturb Basil. The Yeti costume was previously used for the Doctor Who serial The Web of Fear. As a die-hard Whovian, this instantly makes it my favourite clip from Basil.
He's an abominable, he's a lovable.
And I know your favourite episode is The Yeti. How could I forget it, The Yeti? The Yeti, I'll never forget it. Yes, one of my favourite episodes too.
While the original Basil show hasn't gained any more physical releases, over the years some of his missing episodes have turned up and have been screened at various special events. Within the early 2020s, the Film is Fabulous team have been able to rediscover 3 Basil Brush episodes within a short space of time, and the Indiana Jones of missing media, Philip Morris, had rediscovered a Basil Brush episode in Nigeria dating all the way back from 1968. Making it the oldest surviving Basil Brush program. It was screened at the Missing Believed Wiped event in 2018. The last 5 minutes of the program featured a very special group band.
Never mind, we've got something else for you that's a bit better value.
Have you?
Yes, it's a marvellous group.
Yes?
Yes, do you know who it is?
The King!
The King!
It remains to be seen if these episodes will gain any further releases, but there have been a handful of unofficial uploads. A YouTube user, Scotty's Retro channel, has uploaded 3 Basil Brush episodes from season 10 of 1975.
Ah, now if you come across this one, it means beware of low-flying aircraft.
Yeah.
So what about this?
Beware of low-flying motorbikes.
Another YouTube user, Tape Loader, had uploaded a Basil Brush Christmas special from 1974. And user Fans of Lena Zavaroni has uploaded an episode from December 13th of 1980. In 1979, Britt Allcroft was successful into acquiring the rights to the Railway series and spent the next 2 years in pre-production, figuring out the best medium to bring the books to life, commissioning various test works. They involved hand-drawn animation and stop motion. But it wasn't until she met veteran Jerry Anderson employee David Mitten that they settled on the idea of turning the Railway books into a model series. Following on from this, Britt Allcroft mortgaged her home in order to elevate the budget for the pilot, choosing the story Gordon the Big Engine to adapt. The plot only featured 2 steam engines. The story's simplicity was a compliment to the budget. During a period of 3 weeks between March and April of 1983, the pilot named Down the Mine was filmed. The train models were not properly tested before filming, and in some cases they had to be pulled along via fishing wire. The final product wasn't exactly well-rounded, as the pilot had no music soundtrack. But the pilot was convincing enough for ITV to commission a series. Down the Mine was refilmed with newer, updated models, and for the next 40+ years the pilot episode remained unreleased. During the late 2010s and the early 2020s, on occasions whenever current producer of the Thomas series, Ian McHugh, was asked about the possibility of the pilot being released, he revealed that Mattel do still have a copy, and that he was trying to push them forward to release the pilot episode in time for the book series' 80th anniversary, but stressed that it was up to Mattel if they wanted to proceed with this idea. From there, Thomas fans and Lost Media enthusiasts patiently waited to see on what the eventual outcome may be. On the 8th of May of 2025, it was announced that the long-lost pilot episode was going to be uploaded onto the Thomas the Tank Engine YouTube channel at 6 o'clock UK time on the 9th of May, literally 1 day later. Numerous of articles featured a tantalizing glimpse of the original 35mm film elements being handled. That morning on BBC News, there was a special cover story about the upcoming release of the pilot, featuring 2 minutes of footage from the lost episode being seen for the very first time, as well as featuring little snippets of the unheard Ringo Starr narration.
Come back, yelled his driver. Fire and smoke, said Thomas. I am sunk. Look out, shouted his driver. Come back. Fire and smoke, said Thomas. I'm sunk.
Featured as a special guest on the programme was Mark Chambers, who his grandfather was Reverend Audrey, and Ian McHugh, the current producer of the Thomas the Tank Engine franchise. McHugh further divulged as to what condition the film was in when it was rediscovered. The picture was heavily deteriorated, and neither music or Foley were included on the copy that they had found. So Michael Donald, the series' original music composer, was commissioned on to create a new soundtrack for the pilot. However, by mid-afternoon on the same day, the pilot ended up leaking online ahead of its original upload. Since the original pilot didn't have an intro, this version of Down the Mine instead starts with some behind-the-scene outtakes and some text explaining the pilot's background. In the pilot, it starts with this establishing shot that isn't present in the broadcast episode, although it's impressive to see that the sets look virtually identical, as there doesn't seem to be much difference between the two, even down to small details like the little red car being in both versions. Although it's quite evident that Thomas and Gordon's models aren't exactly the same like the final show. Also notice on how the photography is slightly different, where in the final show we're eye level with the model trains, where in the pilot it's angled slightly more above. Additionally, we get a couple of shots that are angled from the left of the image. In the final episode, it's all angled towards the right. It's interesting to see that they were a little bit more versatile on the pilot, going as far to break the 180-degree rule with this shot. However, they may have deliberately used that shot of Clarabelle as coverage to shorten the scene of Thomas leaving the station, as in the pilot we can see steam escaping from Thomas's face, a reported issue while filming. And this certainly isn't the only time that they try and hide away Thomas's face. However, this shot of the flagman is only present in the pilot and doesn't turn up in the broadcast episode. 3 more shots follow that were as well in the broadcast episode, including this one with a small boy with his bike watching Thomas. The shot doesn't exactly line up to this behind the scenes image that was leaked a while back. So either this was a mock-up of the set that didn't get filmed, or it did, but the shot couldn't be retrieved for this release. Next up, we have a sign for Knapford Station. That's only exclusively seen in the pilot. Following that, we have another shot that was featured in the final episode, and this one was fairly famous for many years, as it was our only tantalizing glimpse of Proto-Thomas on moving film. Compared to the final broadcast episode, the mine is far less intricate in detail. There are far fewer set pieces to see. There's no equivalent shot of Thomas in the broadcast episode travelling to the mine like this one in the pilot. And this prop of caution danger ahead sign is only featured in this pilot. And this line of Ringo reading out the sign,
"Danger! Engines must not pass this board,"
is only in the final episode. Another bit of narration that didn't get used was divulging into Thomas's plan.
He had to push the empty trucks into one siding and pull out full ones from another.
What follows is a bit of a deleted scene, featuring the model people at work.
"Come on," waved the fireman. The driver leaned out of the cab to see where they were going.
In the final episode, the fireman's distraction is slightly more simpler, only lasting for about 3 seconds.
The fireman went to turn the points.
Shots of Thomas hatching out his plans were edited with a lot more coverage away from the model train in the pilot, with quite a fair few interesting intricate shots of Thomas's front and whistle.
"Stupid old board," said Thomas. "There's no danger, there's no danger." "Look out," shouted his driver. "Come back." "Fire and smoke," said Thomas. "I'm sunk." And he was.
This shot of the shadow of the Fat Controller approaching Thomas was virtually recreated verbatim in the final episode. The tears in the pilot seem to look a lot more heavier when compared to the final episode. And this shot from the pilot of the Fat Controller got repurposed yet again for the final show. Although it's certainly a little bit more jarring in the episode to see the newer design contrast with the older design. But hey, what you gonna do? Going back to the broadcast episode, not included in the pilot is some travelling shots of Gordon towards the mine. Although there is this unused outtake of Gordon at the beginning, travelling along, that isn't seen in the final pilot episode. However, we are treated to a few more extra lines with Gordon in the pilot.
"Poop, poop, little Thomas. We'll have you out in a couple of puffs." "Down a mine, is he? Ho, ho, ho," laughed Gordon. "What a jokey chortle, puffing to the rescue. Poof, poof, little Thomas. We'll have you out in a couple of puffs."
Another difference is that the shot of the cables in the pilot were instead filmed as a close-up with a bigger model. I will say it certainly does give me Jerry Anderson vibes. There's 2 additional shots with the Fat Controller during the rescue that got recycled for the final episode. An alternative take of this shot got reused in the final episode as well, but this shot of Gordon's wheels were not reinstated and were only exclusive to the pilot. In the final episode, as Gordon is struggling to pull up Thomas, we can see that he's purple in the face. But in the pilot, he appears to be quite happy to be there. Gordon additionally has more dialogue in the pilot.
"I'm in disgrace." "So am I," said Thomas. "I'm in disgrace," Gordon went on pathetically. "I feel very low." "I'm in disgrace too," said Thomas.
We also have a bit more diversity in camera angles for the ending, such as framing it more to the left than the right. The pilot ends off with this deleted exchange between Thomas and Gordon forming an alliance.
"An Ali, what was it?" asked Thomas. "An alliance, Thomas. United we stand, together we fall," said Gordon grandly. "Right you are," said Thomas. "Good, that's settled," mumbled Gordon.
And as a nice way to end off, this remastered version of the pilot is dedicated in memory to Britt Allcroft. God bless you, Miss Allcroft, David Misson and Reverend Aldry, to the people who worked on the pilot and the individuals who helped out on the restoration, and all of those lost media seekers out there who have contributed to the search. No matter how big or small it was, thank you for your contribution.